What if I told you that you can make a man fall for you with just your words? What if I first warned you, though, that this strategy might work so dangerously well that you end up having men wanting to do more for you than you ever even asked for? If you still want to learn what that strategy is, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to make men fall in love with your words. That way you understand how to have a man wrapped around your finger with just a few sentences. Here's the thing about potency and why I call this first point that you need to pull back. When we add all of these different parts of the ways in which you can compliment men, see, what I don't want is there to be an abundance of all of these different compliments that you can give to men, and you end up just using all of them in your arsenal at once and firing all of them at him at the same time 24/7 all the time in your relationship. The problem with that is you're going to lose a lot of the potency that is meant to come with how impactful your words are supposed to be to him and how they're supposed to touch his soul and his spirit and actually alter his mind state and make him feel a way towards you, right? We're trying to do multiple things simultaneously. So then the question becomes, okay, Tomisin, you're asking me to pull back, but you're also saying that speaking to him and my words are going to actually make him fall in love with me. So what are the specific things that I should be pulling back on in order to get him to fall in love with me? Well, this is going to sound very strange, but I want you to pull back on each and every one of these. And the only one I want you to focus on is his treatment of you. In fact, if we think of this like a big, large soup here, and all of these different compliments or areas you can compliment him are like ingredients, by the time you add all of these different ingredients, you're really gonna lose the essence of what the soup is supposed to be. We want it to be potent in the exact specific way that you're looking for this to be received. And the most amount of potency is not by adding a whole bunch of other random ingredients in small, minute ways. It's about focusing in on the most important ingredient to get you to your desired result. And your desired result is to make him feel a way about you in the way that you speak to him. So let's hop into our second point so we can understand how do we really connect with men when it relates to this part of treatment. When we're talking about a man's ego, we can kind of connect all these places here and say, yeah, if I compliment him on his hygiene or the way he takes care of himself, maybe that'll make him feel good about himself. Yeah, maybe. If I compliment him on his height, how tall he is, his build, maybe that'll make him feel real like a man, like a really good, strong, amazing man that I'm really proud to be around. Maybe if I compliment him on his body, that will kind of do the same thing. And maybe if I tell him he has such amazing style, that will kind of make him feel good about himself and get him attached to me. But here's the thing, as it relates to a man's ego. See, remember, you're trying to use your words not just to say random things randomly. You want these words to affect him. You want them to change him and actually change the way he feels towards you. So if we're going to do that, and we're going to do that properly as it relates to men, we have to be focused on this area right here, his ego. Everything that you do when you're associating and interacting and speaking to men especially, you want to be focused on how you use ego to your benefit or how you use ego against a man to get what you want from him. I know it sounds very manipulative, but we're here in this show and in the Players Club to help you understand how to get what you want. So when we're thinking about how to really affect a man's ego, because we want him to fall in love with your words, then we have to focus on this most important part here and this association here. Now, this is where I want to kind of help you gain an understanding about why this association will be the absolute positively most important association that you need to be making with your men from the very beginning of your relationship. And even if you've been in a relationship with this man for a while and you're just learning this information now, I want this to be the area in which you focus the most on for the rest of your relationship. The reason for this is because you can actually make a man feel like a man so much more by focusing on this association here than anything else you could possibly say to him. is because this will represent the amount of ability he has to fulfill his duty to you as a man. You know, we always have the saying that the men's responsibility in a relationship is to protect and to provide. See, the men also have an understanding of that. They also know that their responsibility in a relationship is to protect and to provide. So when you associate with him the compliments that you give to him with his ability to protect and provide through his treatment of you, now you're creating a link between the ways that he will feel good about himself as a man and the area in which you're going to focus on emphasizing makes him feel, or that makes you feel good in your feminine, and is kind of the validation, which we're going to get to, and verification that he is doing his job as a man. Men, see, they're not as good as you are at expressing your feelings and emotions. See, you can talk up a storm about how you feel on the inside, how things that you observed and seen affected you and affected your life and affected your mind frame. You're good at that. That's your skill set as a woman. For the men, it's a little bit harder for them to make that connection between their feelings and expressing them outwardly through words. That's your superpower, which is why this is your show about words. But for the men, they do know how to make the association of taking action for you. They do know how to make the association of doing things for the purpose of your happiness. They know how to serve you and show their love for you by going out and helping to solve your problems. That subsequently makes you happy, which also is in relation to the topic that we were discussing earlier. Men's responsibility in the relationship is to protect and to provide. So you see how this is all kind of connecting together in the way that you're making an association to his ego. You're attaching that specific association to his treatment of you, which subsequently is about the ways that he will protect and provide for you. So you're making him feel most like a man by acknowledging the ways that he's going about the relationship that's taking care of you as his woman. What I want to kind of do for you here is something very special, so that you can gain in your understanding of how to be slick about this. Because, see, being too obvious with your words sometimes doesn't always have the same desired effect. Being more indirect with your words and your expression can actually get you where you want to go even faster sometimes, because it feels more organic. Let me put it to you in a scenario that will crystallize what I'm trying to say here. So what I want you to kind of pay attention to is the fact that, people are very predictable. What I mean by that is you have to understand, in a perfect world, when you get a partner, you would have privacy when it comes to things that don't necessarily concern him. So when you're talking to one of your girlfriends, sure, theoretically, when you're talking to one of your girlfriends and he's around, he would just tune his ears out because maybe what you're saying to her or she's saying to you doesn't relate to him and is not important to him. So he shouldn't be listening to your conversation and eavesdropping. But in reality, human beings are human beings, and they're actually very predictable. So what I want you to do is use something like this to your advantage. I want you to give him validation, but I don't want you to give him this validation directly. I want you to validate him with your words. And remember, we're making an association between his ego and treatment of you. I want the way that you validate him to not come directly to him. I want it to be to other people. But I want you to strategically do this in a way that allows him to both observe you and what you're saying towards him and observe, right, the other person as well, right? So how does that actually look in a relationship? What can happen is, for example, you like to speak to your girlfriends, you like to talk on the phone with them. Sometimes your man might be around while you're talking on the phone with your girlfriends. When you pick up the phone and he's around, right? See, one of your biggest inclinations is that when you talk to your girlfriends, you want to talk to them about problems in your relationship. I'm not saying you can't talk to your girlfriends and express the things that are bothering you in your relationship. But what I also want you to make sure you focus on doing, especially when he's around, I want you to focus some of that time that you spend talking to your girlfriends, talking up the things that your man has done for you. Okay? This is going to be very strategic because remember, human beings are very predictable. And in a perfect world, he wouldn't eavesdrop on your conversation with your girlfriend. But in reality, when you're sitting right there or you're just in another room with very thin doors and he can hear you yapping away with your girlfriends, and you start talking about girl, you don't know what this man done did for me. He went and he got this my favorite bag from the Chanel store, the one that I was literally looking up, and he got that for my birthday. No, he's different. He is a special man. I can't even believe he was able to get the right one. I was looking for the Chanel Classic Flap. That's the one that he got for me. My favorite one in my favorite color, right? And even though he's there, even if he's right next to you, you just pretend like, oh, I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend and I'm just telling her about what happened. But you don't understand, obviously, as he's observing this, he's like, hey, you really like that bag, ain't you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a little something light, you know what I'm saying? You know, just trying to make my girl happy, type. You know, a lot of men, they can't really do it like me, type. And that's what he's thinking in his mind. He's not going to say that, but that's what he's thinking to his mind as you're bragging about him in front of him. And it's a version of validation because not only are you validating him in terms of like how you feel about what he did for you, but you're actually going as far as talking to other people about what he did for you. Now, remember, we're attaching yourself to a man's ego in order to actually affect him. Now you're really making him feel like the man. He's feeling like he's taking on the responsibility of protecting and providing. He's feeling like, damn, you know, ain't no one treat my woman better than I treat my woman. But the thing about it is, you might be thinking, well, Tomisin, why am I going all this extra way to tell him how amazing the things that he did for me? Because now you're creating a positive association. You're creating an association to the best feeling he will get. The most validation he will earn from you is when he does work for you, when he shows up for you, when he takes action for you and for your happiness. That's when he will receive the ultimate validation. That's when you will have something to brag about, and make no mistake about it, you will brag. You'll brag to your friends. I seen some other people say his family. You can do that as well, right? Insert anybody here. It can be a family member, right? It can be yours or his family member. It can be yours or his friend, right? It could be one of his boys, his cousin, whatever, okay? Right? And when you do this, all you want to make sure is that he's able to observe this happening, whether it be over the phone, whether it be in person, whether it be on FaceTime, however you can do it in a way where he can also observe you doing this, right? Because it all works the same way. He just needs to see you, validating him, not necessarily directly to him, right? Validating him directly to him is good, but validating him in a way where you're speaking to other people, where he feels like, oh, you're not even doing this for me. You're really feeling that good about the way that I treated you. And once you start making men feel good about the way that they go about treating you well, now when they want that feeling, because make no mistake about it, feeling good like that can become an addiction in itself, right? Getting validated on that level, especially as a man, can really become an addiction where you start to feel like, damn, I get the most validation from my woman. I feel like she cares the most. I feel like the most important person in her life when I take action for her. So now he starts to look for other ways he can take action for you. I want to go through what does appreciation really look like? Because I know one of the number one questions that a lot of you are going to ask me or be wondering as you're watching this show. How exactly do I show him the appreciation? What exactly should I say, Tomisin? You've broken down the concepts, but I need to know exactly how I go through this. So we're going to go through this. We're going to first start off with the what do you say, okay? You need to repeat back to him exactly what he did for you. For example, let's say that you were having an issue with your work computer and you couldn't get it to work, and so you couldn't type up this project that you needed to do for work. And you've been having to go into the office to use the work computer in the office because you haven't been able to work on your work laptop. It's been crashing on you, okay? And let's say, for the sake of example, he figured out the issue that was with your laptop. He watched some YouTube videos. Then he took your laptop to the store. He fixed a couple of things. He bought a couple of things to get it fixed up. And then he returned it to you so that you could continue working on your laptop. Let's just say that's the scenario. What I want you to do is I want you to be specific. When you start off in your appreciation, you tell him, I appreciate how you went to the store and you made sure that you took care of my laptop that wasn't working, right? My laptop wasn't working, and you took it to the store. You got this piece for my screen. You got this piece for my hard drive. You went to the other store to get this little screwdriver and whatever the case may be. You took it to the store, they fixed it up, and then you paid for it and you returned it back to me, and I didn't have to do anything. You're going into specific detail of exactly what actions he took each step of the way so that he knows that you know everything that went into solving your problem. Second thing here is we're going to talk about the why. The same way we want to be specific in the details that we go through in recognizing each step that he had to take to get to this solution for you. We want to also recognize why it was important for you in your life, because we're going to crystallize this at the end in terms of the result. So we want to make sure that we set the table, not just of what he did, but why it was so important what he did because of your issue. So in the example that I gave you with the laptop and things like that, you also want to make sure you acknowledge, hey, my issue was that I couldn't get to work on my laptop because it was crashing on me. I couldn't get projects out. I was so frustrated. And because I was so frustrated, I had to go to work just to type my stuff up. It was costing me so many hours to commute back and forth when I'm supposed to be working from home. And I was wasting so much time just being on the train and in traffic trying to get to the office and back just to type up something simply when I could have been doing all of that work at home and saving so much more time. So it was so important for me that you fixed my laptop because you saved me time in my day. And now I'm able to be free to do so many more things with my time because I'm not spending time in traffic and going back and forth into the office unnecessarily. Do you see how very specific that is, right? And I know, like someone said, oh, it's like talking to a toddler. It is. But when you break it down like this, you're making the association so strong, right? And you're making it so specific, guys can't mistake this. They can't forget about this talk. The same way you bring a lot of importance to a talk when you want to address your issues is the same way we want to bring a lot of detail and importance to the topic of addressing the things that he's doing well for you and the actions that he's taking that are in line with what you want to continue seeing. Okay, so how this action that he has taken changed your life for the better. I even actually accidentally went into it when I was just discussing our example for the previous why point. But in the how, you also want to acknowledge, yes, this was my issue. This is what I was suffering from. Now you go into, as a result of the action you took by going and fixing my laptop, I'm able to save so much more time. I don't have to travel 2, 3, 4 hours to go to the office and back each and every day. Now I'm able to be more relaxed. I'm able to work more efficiently because I'm not stressed out by having to wake up early and go to the train. I'm able now to take back that time and go to the gym more. I'm able to cook more. I have a better life because of the way that you took action for me and what you did, right? And solving my problem that was such a big problem and why it was a big problem. And now as a result of the action that you took for me, in our relationship to better my life and take care of me as the amazing man that you are, this is the result of the actions that you took on my behalf. I want you to understand this as it relates to emphasis, okay? And stay with me. We're actually going somewhere very important. The emphasis is not just about the words that you're going to speak to a man. It's also about setting the proper environment for all of these things to hit with the proper level of potency that you want, okay? I keep saying the word potency because when you speak to men with words, you want the words to be impactful. You don't want to be having a word salad. So I want you to set the stage of how you emphasize something good. What does that look like? Anytime you want to go into detail about the appreciation that you have for a man and what he did for you, I want you to sit him down in a quiet place. Not while the football game is on, not while you're watching me on YouTube, not while you guys are doing something else or some other activity. If it's in bed, that's fine, right? At the end of the night when you guys are having a discussion. I want this to be time where he can only focus on you because I want his mind there, right? And I want this to be impactful for him. And when you sit down with him, this is why I'm also adding body, right? Because the mind is the quiet, right? We want quiet. That's the mind part in being able to recognize this is an important moment that you're going to put emphasis on. Now, the body part is at this time when you're showing him this appreciation. Remember, this is how to make a man fall in love with your words. So we need them to be potent, which means we need to add every single element that we possibly can to make this potent. Now, when you use your body, you're not going to sit on top of him. Don't get nasty. I want you to look in his eyes and I want you to hold his hands. When you say this, I know for some of you, this sounds super childish and super silly, but I promise you, I'm telling you this as a man. When you do this, you're going to emphasize this so much, it'll be impossible to forget. Okay? So you're going to hold his hands. You're going to look in his eyes. And then you're going to repeat all of the all of the treatment and appreciation that I mentioned in my previous point. Okay? The reason I'm saying that is because now you're going to go into detail in terms of the what, the how it affected you, and the why it was so important to you, all the stuff that I just mentioned. But you're going to do this while having direct eye contact with him, while holding his hand, right, in a quiet, calm place where he can also focus on you. There's no external distractions or things going on. Now, we get to y'all nasty, nasty people's favorite part. The reason I drew this like this, and I drew ego here, is because it's kind of related to the PP. But not in a way that I mean like physically and directly related to the PP. I mean the hard-on that men get when they feel like their woman is really, really in love with them and really, really appreciative of them and the way that they're going about this relationship. I know it sounds very, very strange, but men are like dogs in multiple senses. And in this sense, when you're telling him how good of a job he's doing in being your man, it all kind of is connected. I'll say it like this. And when you're telling him and giving him that appreciation for being such a good boy, it can almost like stimulate everything else because he's like, damn, I really am doing a good job. It's the same reason why when you're sleeping with a man, if you really want to get him turned on, you act like you're really into it because it's going to turn him on, because when he feels like he's doing a good job, it's going to excite him more to continue doing more. Okay? And if you might say too much of, good words, and maybe the way that you go about it, you're enjoying it so much, he might himself get so excited, he spills a mess all over the place. Okay? I know it sounds very weird because you're giving him appreciation that may not have anything to do with sex. So how can it become sexual? It's because when men get praised like this for being a man and for being such a good man to you, it can start to become like a non-sexual turn on. You're not men, so it might not make a lot of sense to you, but trust me, I know what men feel, and I know how they think, and I know how they receive things. When you can tell men they're doing a good job, and assuming they actually have done a good job, but you're emphasizing how good of a job they're doing, it makes them feel really good all over the place, mentally, spiritually, and also physically, right? Everything starts to work properly, and he starts to think about how he can do more for you.